Hi everybody. Today we're going to make cinnamon apple crisp. Fruit crisps are one of the most wonderful desserts you can make and successful every time. You can use all kinds of fruits, lots of different combinations of flours, whole grain gluten-free flours, and the house smells wonderful. It's so comforting. It's such a wonderful homey kind of dessert. So today let's start with the ingredients and then we'll get to the tools. We're going to use apples today. These are Paula Red apples. They might be Ida Reds. I'm not really sure about what the difference is, but they were pretty. They were the nicest looking ones in the store today. Although this is a great use of apples if you go to your local orchard, if the kids go on a field trip, or if you can go as a family and pick up apples and use different kinds. You can use many different kinds of apples. Golden Delicious are great. Galas are great. Paula Reds, Ida Reds. Macintosh are a little soft, but they work fine. The only ones that I'm really not fond of are Red Delicious. I don't think that those bake up well. I also personally don't think they taste very good, but I would avoid those. So we have apples. We have oatmeal. This is certified gluten-free oatmeal. And make sure that you get that. You need it to come from, there's 4 producers, and they make sure that they have separate fields, separate trucks for transportation, separate milling facilities, and they test to make sure that there isn't any wheat or gluten in their oatmeal. Regular oatmeal on the grocery store shelf, like Quaker oatmeal in generic forms that aren't labeled certified gluten-free, are often contaminated with wheat in the processing. So make sure you're getting certified gluten-free oats. This recipe also works great with quinoa flakes, and this was my original intention today, was to make it with quinoa flakes, but I don't have enough left and the store didn't have any. So you can use either of these, whichever you prefer. They're both nutritious and they have similar nutrition profiles. They're a little different, but they're both similar. Quinoa flakes are a wonderful thing to use in this recipe if you can't tolerate or can't get oatmeal. Okay, then I'm going to talk a little bit about the sugar. Today we're using dark brown sugar, and I'm liking dark brown sugar a whole lot more than I used to. I use it a lot now. There was an article in the American Dietetic Association Journal about antioxidants in sugars. Dark brown sugar is pretty good. That's because it's made with molasses. It's molasses and white sugar mixed together. That's how they get dark brown sugar. And it's actually the molasses that has the antioxidants in it. But it's easy to substitute dark brown sugar for white sugar in lots of recipes, and so that's why I've switched to this. Switching to molasses is not as easy in a lot of recipes. I also just want to talk a little bit about other kinds of sugars. You can use Splenda in this recipe. If you're trying to avoid calories, Splenda works just fine. It won't give you the antioxidants, but it won't give you the calories either. There's also another kind of sugar that I'm really liking, and this is palm sugar. Again, not available in that many places, but these are little buttons of sugar, and they're like this, and you have to cut them, kind of shave them, and then measure the sugar. And I'm looking online recently, I saw a post about how many antioxidants and how much nutrition is in palm sugar. This is just the sap of palm trees that's collected and boiled down. It's not refined in any other way other than concentrating, and it's really quite amazing, and there'll be some links on the recipe page so that you can see this kind of nutrition information. We're using nuts today, walnuts. I love walnuts. You can use any kind of walnuts that you want, any kind of nuts that you want. Almonds or hazelnuts or macadamia nuts or whatever. Walnuts are nice in that they have omega-3s that other nuts don't have. So I like to use walnuts a lot. And then for flour today, we're using sorghum flour, which I love. I'm using this in all kinds of things. This is whole grain, and it works beautifully. In this recipe, you're not trying to get structure of cake or muffin. You're just making it crispy, and so this is a perfect application for whole grain flours. and any of them will work. I've used millet, quinoa flour, amaranth flour, millet flour, teff flour, Montina flour. They all work well in this recipe. Sometimes you want to take into consideration the color of the flour, like teff flour and Montina flour are dark colored, and I think when people are thinking apple crisp, they're not thinking of a really like a chocolatey brown colored crisp topping, although it's pretty with peaches. It's a nice combination with peaches. And then today we're going to use canola oil, and I happen to like and am using organic canola oil, but any kind of light, mild flavor oil will work. And cinnamon. We have half a teaspoon of cinnamon that just smells wonderful. And cinnamon has been shown to reduce spikes in blood sugar. And so, you know, it tastes great, it's healthy for you, great. We're going to add it. So these are the ingredients today, and I want to get to the tools. We're going to use measuring cups for the flour and the sugar, the oil, the walnuts. I already used measuring spoons to measure out the cinnamon. We're going to use a couple knives for peeling and cutting the apples, a spatula for mixing up the topping, cutting board because we're using knives. And then you can use pretty much any kind of oven-safe pan that you want to. This is an 8x8 baking pan that a lot of people will have in their household, or you could use a round cake pan or a pie pan or anything that can go in the oven that's approximately the size. You can also easily double this recipe or cut it in half. So there you would want to use the appropriate sized pan. Today and often I really like these Pyrex containers because there's just two of us, and this is a recipe that we could eat in a week without too much trouble, but sometimes I want to make some and save some, and so I really like these, and I use two of them, put it in here and bake both of them, and then cool it thoroughly, put on the lid and put one in the freezer for later so that I can have apple crisp pretty much when I want it. So there you go. Okay, so we're back. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the topping, because these apples, when I cut these apples, they turn brown pretty quickly, and so I want to have the topping ready to go. It doesn't really matter that they turn brown in this recipe. We're going to cook them and they're going to have this beautiful topping on, but you know, they just look nicer when they're snowy white than when they're a little bit brown. So I've got the oatmeal in here. Here's my flour. Again, you don't have to be super accurate with this. We don't have to weigh the flour or anything like that. Just need to dump it in. With the sugar, it's important to push the sugar down like this, pack it into your container, into your measuring cup, and then put it in here. And just in general, when I'm baking, I want to put my ingredients in clumps in my bowl until I am sure that I put everything I need to put in there. Otherwise, if I mix it all up and I think, oh, did I put the baking powder in? Did I put the flour in? Whatever, I can't remember, and I can't tell by looking at it. Okay, so here's the nuts. They're going over there. All right, the cinnamon is I'm going to put it right there where I can see it. Okay, and then the oil. I only need 1/4 cup of oil here. If you are wanting to gain weight, you can put more oil in here, and it'll be a little bit more crispy and crunchy. I wouldn't try to use less. I think 1/4 cup is kind of a minimum. All right, so that's going in, and just kind of let that drip in there a little bit. All I need to do is mix this up. Very simple. Kids can do this with you, and then it's going to look beautiful. Alright, the brown sugar clumps in here a little bit too, so you want to kind of cut through it. Make sure that it's completely mixed up. And then I'm going to set this aside for a moment. Okay, you can see it's nice and light, crumbly. Perfect, that's just what we're after. Alright, I'm going to clean up a little bit. Next up is the apples. Okay, so I'm going to slice them and put them right into my baking containers, like that. Let's get rid of that. And there are many ways to slice an apple. You can peel them with a peeler if you want. I have a peeler. I like my peeler. I'm just not going to use it today. You can go around and try to cut it all in one piece. If that matters to you, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to show you how I do it. It's kind of sort of an assembly line sort of thing. I quarter them with my big knife. And then I'm going to take out the core and peel each quarter with my little knife. I just find it's easier to hang on to that quarter than it is to hang on to a kind of slippery ball-shaped thing if you peel it whole. And then half of my apples here are going to go into each of these. So I just take it, I take my small knife, make a cut down, make another cut down, pop that out. And then I just take the peel off like so. If you leave a little bit of peel on somewhere, doesn't matter. And then I take this and slice it right into my container. That easy. And so if you have many hands to help you here, that's great. Otherwise, it's kind of a Zen thing, just sort of peeling and thinking about how wonderful this dessert's going to be. We talked a little bit before too about the apples turning brown. I don't think it matters here in this recipe, but you can put lemon juice on these if you want to keep them from turning brown. A little vinegar would work too, just a few drops. And you have to have them in a bowl and stir them all up and stuff, and I just think, why bother? So, I don't know if you can see that these are already starting to turn brown a little bit. Another thing that I want to tell you about apples is they're part of the Dirty Dozen. The Environmental Working Group is a website, ewg.org. I'll put that link in the recipe too. That every year tests produce and determines the ones that are most likely to have pesticide residues. Apples are on that list. And so they feel it's important to buy organic from that Dirty Dozen list, the top 12 list. They also include a list of things that are least likely to have pesticide residues, and they state that it doesn't really matter so much if you buy those particular things organic. So I like to buy organic apples. I also think I'd like people just to plain eat more fruits and vegetables. And so that's the first priority. Okay, there we go. Apples are in the pan. Next thing we're going to do is put the topping on. let's see, do this so you can see what I'm doing. And you just put it on, try to get it in the little nooks and crannies, kind of in the corners. Let some of the apples stick out. And I'm getting a little on the counter, I know that. I'm going to put both of these on a sheet pan. That will make your life a lot easier. To use a sheet pan in the oven, it makes it easier to get these in and out without burning yourself. And once I get them on the sheet pan, I'm going to scoop up the stuff that hit the counter a little bit and put that on top of them. I don't want little, oh, and by the magic of video, here we have a pan, a sheet pan. Anyway, I don't want to have, see these little bits here? I don't want those on a sheet pan because they'll just burn. So I will do like so. And just sort of arrange this a little bit. And there you go. This goes into the oven. Oven at 350 for about 45 minutes to an hour. I would check it probably at a half an hour first to make sure that it's not getting too brown. Various ovens cook differently. And if it is getting too brown, put some foil over the top and that'll help keep it from getting burnt. So, see you back here in 45 minutes to an hour when we take them out of the oven. Okay, we're back. This has been 45 minutes. I did not have to put foil on it. It looks very much like it did when it went in, but it smells wonderful. And so we're ready to eat it. You can let it cool a little bit if you want, or otherwise you can serve yourself some right now. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like. Nice and crumbly. Alright, see if I can get it into the bowl. Let's get closer. So if we have spillage, it might go in the bowl. Alright, we're just going to have to go like that. Alright, just delicious. Oh. Okay, and you can see that that's about a third. You can get 3 portions out of each of these, or 4 or 2, depending on what you like. And there you go. It's really kind of hot. I need to... Let's try. You're really going to like this. This is really good. See you next time.